competitive CORRAL. Norcetto! Yes! Norcetto, how was your weekend? I also have been on an adventure in ranked for the past few days. I will just say that. It was a pretty weird weekend for me in that because I didn't travel, like, I traveled down for the game, but it was like halfway through Saturday, and then the following day was on my way back to Georgia. So it was like a very weird and abbreviated weekend, but interestingly enough, it was also another pretty weird weekend in Heroes of the Storm. So, it was week 8 this past week, so after this weekend, there are 2 weekends left until BlizzCon, or until the playoffs to decide who all is going to BlizzCon and also the Crucibles. But, yes, it is coming down to the wire, and that is what I would like to talk to you about. There are some very interesting matchups coming up in the next couple of weeks, but also from this past weekend. I don't talk about this very often, but there was an interesting series in Korea. Miracle PogChamp 3-2 Gen G for the second time this phase. They're the only team to have beaten Gen G. And I think they beat them once in Phase 1 also. And I was checking in on the last match of it because I didn't see it happen, so I wanted to see like how close of it was when it closed out. But one of the commentators threw out the stat that they've apparently also beaten Ballistics at some point. So Tempest is the only one of the top 3 that they're yet to beat. So like for a perpetually middling Korea team, Miracle has some things up their sleeve, it turns out, apparently. Exactly. So yeah, that was pretty wild to start off the weekend. And okay, so then from there we'll head over to Europe, where well, I guess I can't summarize Europe in just this one sentence, but I think the key point of the weekend for Europe was 2 wins for Fnatic, and that means 2 losses for Method. So this was the scenario that I was talking to you about Method had to start the weekend playing against Dignitas, and of course got beat 3-0. And Fnatic, on the other hand, had to play, oh my god, I'm like totally blanking on who it was they played, but it was one of the like lower tier teams, maybe Granite. And so they won their match and then came into their match against Method the next day and beat Method 3-1. So now with that defeat, or with that victory of Fnatic over Method, Fnatic has now jumped from 5 to 3, where they are sitting tied with Method at 7-5, but they are +5 map differential ahead of Method. So this is the nightmare scenario for Method with 2 weeks less to go. Oh, I'm glad you're so interested in that because I got some other games for you coming up about map differential, Norcetto. Uh, yes, it always is that important, it turns out. Well, so some of them are in North America. I'll talk about this in a second. Some of them are going into the following weekend about the Crucible. It gets really tight. But a couple of other things that happened in Europe where another huge surprise, Leftovers beat Liquid number 2 3-1. Put them out pretty bad. So, I would not say that Liquid is in nightmare mode, but Liquid is going to have to be worried coming into the next couple weeks because they seem to not really have like a strong course of direction like heading into the tournament, you know? Right? It's been rough. It's been rough the past couple of weekends. And then the last thing that happened was Roll 20 got their second win in a row after going winless through the whole first part of Phase 2. They got a second win over Granite, who was they're actually above them now in the Crucible standings. And Granite was having a pretty good Phase 2 there at the start and in the middle. Right, and I mean, to give credit to Roll 20, like Roll 20 has a good roster. It just kind of like it has taken a while for them to congeal, it seems, and it seems that they are like congealing at the best possible time for themselves. Mm-hmm. And speaking of things going crazy across the pond to North America, there is another scenario that I mentioned last weekend that has come to pass, and that is Octalysis is smelling blood in the water in North America. Starting the weekend off 3-0, my boys Tempo Storm. Looked bad. Whipped them. So I mentioned to you previously. I think that they've had a issue with closing games, and unfortunately, I did not get to see this past one. Actually, was that on like at the same time that our game was? Yeah, exactly. Oh no, that was Friday. So like I missed it Friday. I didn't. No, I watched part of it because I saw how bad they got beaten. I just now I'm blanking on like how did it play out. But yeah, just in general, an issue that. Timbo Storm can like they can play flat-footed sometimes, and I guess what it really comes down to a lot of times is Tempo is admittedly, and I think they would cop to this too. Tempo's a pretty emotional team. Like when they're high, they're really high, and when things go awry, like it can kind of get in their heads, and they can tilt. They have a tendency to tilt, and so like when things start to really start working against you, like you start playing against yourself. You start making the mistakes that you wouldn't normally make because you're trying so hard to force something, to just like reverse the flow against you. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the Overwatch League is very fortunate in that what it has that the Heroes of the Storm pro scene doesn't have is it has the depth to allow them to do that. Like, there's no sub rosters in Heroes of the Storm. Like, people miss sometimes. Like, actually, oh my god, McIntyre, who is the offlaner for HHE, he was substituted for a couple of weeks back a few weeks ago because he got married. So like people will actually like it's not even like for negative mental health sorts of things. Like you can like go away from the team and they can find a sub for you, but rosters do not carry substitutes in pockets. So like it is a stressful thing for your team to find a sub for you. I actually did not realize that until you just told me that now. Oh wow. Yeah, unfortunately, the ownership groups of a lot of these teams are the same people that are ownership groups of other professional sports teams, where the attitude is like, you cut the cost and you make bank. Like they see esports as like they can't deny the future that is coming in this thing, and they may as well get in on the buck at the beginning of it. But like they have this same attitude of like, I'm just gonna throw out the bare minimum here. Uh huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually going to say, fortunately, because of the fact that this is going to get as big as it is, at some point these boys are going to unionize. Like, they're going to look at the other professional leagues and be like, this has to happen, and it should happen. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I am too. No, that's totally cool. The I actually was going to say another thing like on that point. Oh my god, I just had it in my mind bank. We were talking about Tempo Storm and their performance. Oh, well, I guess one thing that I was going to say is as much as they can like kind of get in their own heads mentally, I will also like give credit to they won their match the day prior that was I think against LFM. They won it 3-1. I think 3 like they won the like game that they were supposed to win the next day, but like Octalysis is just playing on another level right now, man, and they're bringing draft compositions that like people aren't prepared for, and they showed this in that the very next day they took Heroes Hearth Esports to game 5, and Heroes Hearth barely pulled it out. in Game 5 against them. Exactly. So Heroes Hearth won the game. They're still sitting firmly atop the guaranteed BlizzCon space, but Octalysis made them work for it, and Octalysis is feeling themselves right now. So actually, all of this said, I think they're number 4. I think they have jumped Endemic. Endemic has, yes. Endemic's lost some series they shouldn't have lost recently, and to be honest, I don't really consider Endemic a threat anymore at this point, like in the, playoff. It's really just between Tempo, Freedom, and Octalysis, and who's going to get what seeding in the playoff. Yeah. And so, so the case is still true actually, and it's still Tempo and Freedom, and then Octalysis, and each of them is one win ahead of the team behind them still. But yeah, I'll talk about that more when we'll talk about next week. But I would like to know how the last weekend of the NA Cup went for Overwatch. Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh huh. Right, because there's less distraction at 3 in the morning. No? You did mention they were strongly favored in this weekend. Oh, so they 4-0'd everybody. Oh, wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. That is the beauty of the international meetup is that like you only grow by playing people that can kick your ass. Right, and to your point that you were talking about, like some of these guys can get picked up for some expansion teams. Yeah, I think you get to a point where the only way you grow further is by pitting yourself against people that unfortunately are quite a bit better than you, but like getting a taste of that like higher level that doesn't exist where you are gives someone like a drive to I want to participate in that regularly. I want to be on a team. Mhm. Uh-huh. Mhm. Yeah. No questions. I just wanted to say, like, top two out of the field of six, right? Like, top two is so rough, man. It's so tight. Like, I know that it's for scheduling constraints that you can only fit so many matches in BlizzCon, but man, it'd be really cool if they took like the top three and the three seeds to like play the wild card round. Right, and exactly, and what you're talking about, like Brazil could get an opportunity to feature themselves. Like, man, it'd be awesome if they could just take one more from each region. I I have never even until like this very second had this thought to myself where it's like, at what point does Blizzard like is there a money threshold where like at some point Blizzard's like, okay, BlizzCon is no longer just the weekend; it's like the week, because they're so massively successful. Like, what is making this still the case? For sure, they've like, and when you consider that, like when they made Warcraft 1, and like they started like wanting to make card games, man. Like they started from nothing, a team of five dudes to become. I've said this a number of times. Blizzard is basically the Google of video gaming. Like there is no other company in video gaming that comes close to having the campus that Blizzard has, and the amount of talent that they employ. In- including beta for Azeroth, the paid test realms. Right, exactly. Which is why I am fully behind the support of the Overwatch League. Blizzard, you guys go do it. Like the only people that are gonna like actually make Blizzard that make esports like a legitimate national thing, and not to discredit like the LoL Championship Series and the Dota International that obviously have like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people like tune in to watch online. But I'm talking about this like the bridges they're building with they have articles on ESPN and are about to like start broadcasting the Overwatch League games like through ESPN, like the real like national market stuff. Right, and so from nothing else, it's pretty fun to get to be alive at the time that like we're gonna get to watch like how this starts. Like right. Another way I was thinking about it, the analogy you were just using, like if these other companies are trying to build skyscrapers as fast as they can, I feel like Blizzard is building the suburb. They're like, we're building the foundation of something that's going to be like an entire entity, man. We are going to run this product. Yeah, exactly. Like there's a long game here, man, that Blizzard is playing out. I'm here for it. So what else? What is coming up in the world of Overwatch then? Woo! Right, I was about to say. So, are they built from the dragons? Are they? Which of the four hypothetical Chinese teams is this team built from? Right. Well, I was gonna say, like, yeah, break it down for me. Like, in the region, who are you expecting to be the top two, and does China have a chance? Because now I kind of want to know, like, if the Dragons weren't actually the best that China has to offer, if the BlizzCon team is a much better selection of the actual talent in China, and if China makes a deep run in the tournament, well, then it makes you be like, well, wait a second, man. Like, Shanghai could have been better. Right? Yeah. Right, per capita. Well, there's a number of EU players in HGC that are Swedish too. I actually like. I've come to a feeling that like obviously Korea we it treats as a nation they're like treats the profession with the most seriousness and like has the best amenities for these such. But I feel like Sweden comes in at a pretty solid number two. That Sweden's like, yeah, man, people can do this. Yeah. Right, and I guess I think of Grubby, the Warcraft 3 legend and hot streamer now, but is he Danish maybe? He might be from Denmark, but still like mhm. Mhm. Oh yeah? Oh wait, okay, now I know who you're talking about. Yes. Wait, he's competing in the World Cup? Oh my god, this is incredible. Man, how does he keep his chops up then to play in the World Cup? Which I love. As being a Japanese speaker, I love that someone had that name in the league. It colloquially is basically pain in the ass. Like, you ask someone, "Hey, why are you not doing such and such?" Mendokusai na. Mhm. I'm going to hope for China just for this exact scenario of I want to see like if they get into BlizzCon, do they actually make a run and have we been denied an opportunity to see a competitive Chinese team in the first year of Overwatch League? Mhm. It's gonna be here like before we know it. It's already like almost October basically. Oh right, that I didn't even consider like how wild of an experience that has to be, like watching how time passes with that new factor in your life now. Right. You find right, there's this weird window of time where it's still like you still sometimes can like find yourself thinking, wait, is this actually happening? I'm not totally sure. So this weekend is week 9. So it is the second to last weekend before the final playoffs for the Crucible and Blizzcon. And unfortunately, I don't think that this is going to be all that interesting of a weekend. I have a couple of matches that I think are going to be noteworthy and worth watching for sure. And one of these is in Europe, which is Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern, and this is number 3 Fnatic versus number 2 Liquid. This is second week in a row of Fnatic is my must-watch Heroes of the Storm. You know, I was like, are they going to step up or are they going to beat Method? And they did it. And now they come up against Liquid, who, as I said, they just got put down 3-1 by Leftovers, a team who is now below Fnatic. So, you know, is Liquid going to wake up, or is Fnatic in Octalysis mode and they're trying to roar their way into a BlizzCon spot? Also, I was talking to you about map differential earlier. Liquid is currently 8-3, Fnatic 7-5, but they both have the same +8 map differential. So if Fnatic beats them, like, they're going to actually jump them, possibly? They'll have one more loss, but they'll have the tiebreaker and the map differential. Yeah. But dude, even if they don't secure it through that game, if they beat them, it's going to be like a 1-2 map split between Liquid having to go into the final weekend. You know, Fnatic is hungry for it now. And then I also have the other game that I think is going to be worth watching is also Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern. This is in North America. This is number 3 Freedom versus number 1 Heroes Hearth. So, I guess Heroes Hearth, with them beating Octalysis, they have a pretty okay last couple of weekends, and they're probably locked into BlizzCon. I think they only have to win like they can actually lose series. I think they just have to pick up a couple of maps in this weekend, and they guarantee their BlizzCon spot. So they're probably not going to like pull Heroes Hearth out of that, but Freedom's got to have some urgency in this situation for their own playoff position, because as I just said, well, no, they have not played Octalysis yet, but so they play Simplicity Friday. So Simplicity is currently a Crucible team, so they should win this game, but then they got to play number 1 Heroes Hearth, and then next weekend they have to play Octalysis. So, like, they cannot let maps slip away from them this weekend, and whether they win this or not, they got to stay in it if they want to put themselves further up in the playoff and have to play Octalysis last instead of early. Or instead of having to play them and then play Tempo. But so beyond that, the other thing that I think is actually crazy interesting is the Crucible setup for both regions. So the Crucible is, there's 8 teams in every region, right? And so the bottom 2 play in the end of the year of what's called the Crucible against the top 2 Open Division teams. And the winner of the Open Division gets to pick which of the 2 Crucible teams they want to play against to try to play their way into the league. And so in Europe, Monkey Menagerie is sitting at the bottom, and then and then Roll20 also is obviously at the bottom because they were like 0-8 at least before they started winning. They might have actually gone 0-9. I can't remember now, but like they were winless. But it turns out because of the last 2 games that they've won over the past weekends, they are now 1 game back from Granite, who is 1 place ahead of them. And so, yeah, exactly. And Roll20 has 2 games this weekend with only Dignitas next week. This is kind of like their last chance to get out of the Crucible. Granite has an easier path, I think, but so, yeah, Roll20 has... I have this written correctly, right? With only Dignitas next week. This is their last chance, really. Yeah, so Roll20 is going to lose to Dignitas next week, no question. So, what they have to do... Right, I know, I'm saying this really aggressive statement. If Roll20 beats... Here's the pants crapping bet that you're never supposed to make that my friends and I will make during football season. Right? If Roll20 were to beat Dignitas, I would crap my pants. So that being the case, that means they have to, in their 2 matches this weekend, do something to last-minute leapfrog Granite and win their way out of having to play in the Crucible. And so they have leftovers this Friday, and then they have Monkey Menagerie, the other Crucible team, Sunday. So, like, essentially, Roll20 actually kind of has their destiny in their hands of if they can get a win over leftovers and then put down the Menagerie, who is not playing well against anyone lately, then like they could jump Granite at the last minute, and Granite have to play in the Crucible. Oh man, Norcetto, then you are going to love this. The NA Crucible setup. No Tomorrow is at the bottom of the rankings, 1-10. LFM is at number 7 at 3-9. Simplicity is sitting above them at 3-8. And the map differential is Simplicity's at -13, LFM's at -15. So let me spell this out for you. This coming weekend, so LFM who's 3-9, -15, they have to play Octalysis this weekend. I'm betting that's not going to go well for them. The other team that they have to play this weekend is No Tomorrow, the other Crucible team. So if they lose 3-0 to Octalysis this weekend, that puts them at 3-10 with a map differential of -18. Simplicity, who is above them and not in the Crucible, who is at 3-8, they have to play 2 matches this weekend and none next week. So LFM is 1 this weekend, 1 next weekend. Simplicity ends their season this weekend, and they have Freedom and Endemic this weekend. The number 3 team and the number 5 team. So if Simplicity loses to both of these teams 3-0, Simplicity falls to 3-10, a -19 map differential. They fall into the Crucible by 1 map loss, with LFM going into the last weekend against the other Crucible team. Simplicity can also absolutely fall into the Crucible and have no hope for anything to do but to hope that No Tomorrow beats Simplicity the following weekend. Or sorry, it beat LFM. Exactly. So, while I don't think like that there's going to be much to see in the upper end, oh man, this weekend and next weekend is going to be crazy for the Crucible teams. It's so tight right now. And it's so rough, man, because, like, recognition given, it's hard being a pro gamer, and especially being a pro Heroes of the Storm gamer. Like, they don't get paid the way that Overwatch League players get paid. And I'm not trying to like make a fight about it, but I'm trying to present a reality that, like, you know, the thing that makes it possible basically is being on an HGC paycheck. If you fall out of the HGC and are having to compete in the open division, there's no salary, man. The only money you're making is, like, maybe if you were also a streamer on the side, like, whatever you're getting from that, but you're having to work part-time again, if not full-time, while you're also having to practice at nights for your open division team to try to get your way back into the league. So, like, there's some real life stress attached to these game series, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. For sure. So yeah, that's what I got coming up this weekend, and there's no more interesting news. I had no dramas this weekend for me. Yes, we did mention this. Yeah, yeah, awesome. Right. Uh huh. I did not even know there is a tier 3 system. Like, I knew of contenders, but there's a third division? But so you play into contenders. Uh-huh. So when this happens, does this academy team just no longer exist? This academy just no longer has an academy, has a team. Wow. Ow. Right, I was going to say that concept is still pretty wild to me because like it is still a little bit different from the hero situation where like you have to assemble a team for the open division and you have to win your way into the league as that team, and then like you are that team in the league. Maybe something pops up that like someone gets suspended or some crap. Like things can happen. Like Arthalon retires, you have to replace someone on your team your first league in or your first year in the league. But it seems different to me in that like, okay, so you have to form an open division team to play into the contenders, but once you're into the contenders, like you can be sent anywhere at any time. It seems like to me. But I guess what I'm saying is wild to me is this notion of like these guys probably know that, so it's like, okay, this is where I got to get to is contenders, and I think I've got what it takes to get there. But I gotta find 5 other guys to play with me to get there, and then who knows what happens after that. Oh man. These criticisms spill over in Heroes of the Storm also, where they like a lot of people in the Heroes community feel the game is just underfunded, like as a whole was underfunded, and like it. I think there's a lot of like validity to a lot of these criticisms, but at the same time, like I also like I understand the other side of this. So like Blizzard basically had to make a choice. They were like, what this is going to require to like make this work is we're just going to have to pump immense resources into like one thing and really sell the crap out of this one thing. And like Overwatch and the Overwatch League is what they rolled dice on that, man. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. It's not fallacious at all. It's very simple. It's trickle down economics. The money trickles down from the Overwatch League. I was actually going to say though that another I mean there is the business aspect of this always that like we can't ever put it in our mind, and like typically business doesn't typically like to engage with unions because it complicates things for them. But spoiler alert, the way that you wind up having employees that don't make unions is you treat your employees worth a damn. Like, you make things easier for them, then they won't be combative with you. And like I think Blizzard gets that and like works on that. Hmm. Yeah, and it may be naive of me to think this, but I will also throw it back to I think I also believe that the people that actually run Blizzard again, they were those guys, man. They were playing Dungeons and Dragons in a basement, and like Papa Jeff was. He was trying to be a writer and was playing like these. They've been nobodies, know what it's like to like just be a gamer with a glimmer in their eye, man. And like I think they don't want to snuff that out in people because they remember what that was like. Yeah. Well, if that guy was already tweeting that message out about 2019, then that means that like, okay, it's somehow he was given some information that a plan is in place and that there are things that exist. So, is this BlizzCon material? Possibly. I have high hopes for BlizzCon myself. Uh, Yeah, for sure. But yeah, cool. That is I think that's it for the rest for us for tonight, guys. Take the time to say thanks for tuning in and watching. Thanks for following along with us like always. You can find both of us on Twitter, me at Sigma is Greater, Norcetto at Norcetto. You can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Twitch, and we'll see you guys next time. Yes. Alright. See you guys.